Alright, today we're going to go over how these markets repeat themselves, okay? And this is literally the only reason why we are able to make money on them is because they repeat themselves, okay? And here we go. We're going to start marking zones out, okay? Supply and demand is how we trade. And price bounces off of certain areas, and you're going to start to see that. And one is actually happening right now, okay? Let's go back in time frame, okay? The overall time frame, which is the 4 hour, okay? Time frames only mean that's how long it took for each candle to print out, okay? Right now we're tapping into a supply zone, okay? Supply is for sells, okay? Why would we anticipate sells? Well, we're going down here, okay? We're breaking structure and pulling back, okay? Okay, we break structure, and then we pull back, and then we break structure again, and then we pull back, and then we break structure, okay? We trade with the trend. This is why supply and demand works with market structure, okay? So this could potentially reverse here. If we get a break of the candle, that would be an entry, but we do not enter on the 4 hour time frame. Okay, let's go to the 30-minute. You can see here that we have reaction zones up in here. Okay, this was a supply zone. That's a huge supply zone. We do not take shit like that. This is a demand zone. Okay, huge buying pressure. Huge buying pressure. Here, let's zoom in here. Huge buying pressure. Okay, it tapped the zone and it flew off. Look at this. Boom. All you need is a 1-to-1. Okay, 50 points can make you rich. It's all on your lot size. Okay, but a 1-to-1 would be right here. Oh, a little over a 1-to-1, but perfect. Okay. These are demand zones. Okay, demand zones are going to be black candles, seller candles in particular. Okay. So first you get a break of structure. Okay, what is a break of structure? You guys can go over that in my other videos. There is a market structure video. I go over that in that one. But I'll do it again. This is a break of structure right here. Okay, broke structure, leaving behind a demand zone. Demand zone is our most recent seller candle. Okay, most recent one would have been here, but it also did leave behind a second one. Tapped into it, flew off. Okay, that's the main principle. Okay, you have huge selling pressure. This would be a supply zone. Supply zone is a buyer candle. Okay, see the little sandwich? It's a black candle, then a blue one, then a black one. Okay, and it melts. This would be your supply zone here. The last, most recent buyer candle. Okay, huge selling pressure, taps the zone, melts again. Okay, over and over and over again. You have zones within zones within zones within zones. Okay, huge selling pressure, taps again, melts, boom, taps it again and melts again. Okay, over and over and over. Look at it right here. Look at this one. Huge selling pressure. Okay, our demand zone is here. Supply zone is here. Blue candle, last blue candle before we took off. Okay, we tapped it and we melted. In that process, we left another supply zone. Okay, bro, it happens over and over and over. Over and over and over. These are really unclear because they've already been tapped, but boom, we broke below, tapped it and fell again. Okay, tapped it again and we fell still. Okay, we only go for a 1-to-1. That's 90 points, bro. Holy shit. That's more than 50 points. Wow. That's all you need, bro. That's all you need. That little tiny move. Okay? This little tiny move could change your life. Literally. That's money right there. Okay? This would have been the first trade here. Boom. Yeah, it's insane. It happens over and over and over again. Look at this one. Why did price drop from here? Why did price drop from there? Look left. Okay, we had a supply zone up here. Boom. Do you see that? So you have a supply zone up here, and then you have a supply zone down here. Okay. Boom, tapped into it twice and fell. And then it finally tapped this one way up here and fell again. Okay. It happens over and over and over again. This is also another supply zone. Okay. It doesn't always have to be a huge sell-off move. This could be it right here too. This is a break of structure. Okay. It broke below here, pulled back into our zone, and melted. Okay. This is literally what's happening. Break structure, pulls back. Break structure, pulls back. Break structure, pulls back until it doesn't. Until it starts to do this. Until it starts to go here. Okay, so the trend is your friend until it breaks. Okay, but this is step one. We always wait for a break of structure. It leaves behind a zone, and then we wait for that tap, and then we take the entry, whether that's for buying or selling. Okay, so really quick, what are we learning in this video here? Supply is for sells, and demand is for buying. Okay. Also, what else are we learning in this video? Demand zones are recent seller candles. Okay. Supply zones are recent buyer candles. Okay. What else are we learning in this video? We are learning that the markets repeat themselves. Repeat themselves. That's why we can study and make money. Period. Okay. So let's keep going. Should we keep going? Look at this one here. The last most recent buyer candle. Okay. You have huge selling pressure from here. Whoop. And guess what? It broke structure. I see this all the time. Okay. Broke structure here. Okay. Pull back into it. Whoop. Broke structure again to continue that downtrend continuation. Okay. You see that? You don't need to know what every single candle means. All you need to know is where your supply and your demand zones are. You need to know when it touches, get the break of a candle. Okay, it's that simple. You don't need to study for months on what every single candlestick means. You don't. Okay. So this one right here too, this was huge selling pressure. Okay. And sometimes you'll get a tap and you'll get a break of the candle and then it reverses. Okay. That would have been a loss right there, but it's okay. Bro, we get a 75 to 80% win rate. Okay, this shit happens over and over and over again. Well, first of all, why would we even take a supply zone way up here anyways? Why would we? We would have seen this. Okay, highs are pretty much equal. They're not really breaking. It's barely breaking. But overall, we're going up here. We're going up here. So we're actually looking for demand zones. Okay. Until, right, you get a break, you have a supply zone that holds, and then boom. Okay, let's do a couple of demand zones here. Let's do a couple of demand zones. All right, right here. Boom. Here you have this one. Ooh. So here's how to draw them properly. Okay, from wick to wick. You're gonna draw it from the top of this wick to the bottom of the next candle's wick. Or if it was by itself, you just draw it to the bottom. From the bottom to the top. From the head to the feet. Okay, if you have another candle next to it, you're just gonna put it at the next candle's feet right there. Okay, the wick. Okay, you see how I got both candles in there? From the top here to the bottom of this candle. Okay, taps the zone, flies up. Watch. Damn, bro. It's 113 points. Okay, all you really need is 50 points. Okay, always manage your risk. Make sure your stop loss is not that huge. 90 points for a stop loss? No, no sir. Okay, we'll go over stop losses in a different video. Actually, that's in my other video, the if I could teach a toddler or a 5-year-old, whatever. It's in that video. You can watch everything in that video. And yeah, so look right here. Why did price just drop from here? Well, probably tapped this demand zone. I mean supply zone. Well, no, we didn't get a tap here. But as you can see, it happens over and over again. Okay, look at this. This is a demand zone right here. Last seller candle. Boom. Wicks through it a little bit, grabbed some liquidity, but it still took off from here. Okay, again, all you need is 50 points. This is well over. Oh my god, look at that. Crazy, 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 crazy moves. Okay, let's go lower in time frame. Guarantee you can find so much more. Let's go lower in time frame. Yeah, look at this one. This is a demand zone here too. Whoop. Okay, the first touch was right here, and then boom, it took off. First touch was right here. We would have got entry up in here, and boom, it took off. Okay. Yeah, let's just keep going. Yeah, right. Why did price decide to reverse here in this area? Let's go to the 5-minute. No way, I just lost my spot. Oh, there we are, right here. Boom. Okay, so it reversed here. Right up here in this area. This would have been a supply zone right here. See, but you can't see that on the 30-minute. You see that? See that? That's a supply zone right there. Whoop, touches it and melts. Okay, this happens over and over and over. Alright, it's 1:48, almost 2 in the morning. I'm about to get some sleep. Okay, after doing this for about 30 minutes, you might be able to see some zones yourself. Okay, like I see one right here. Boop. Okay, that little tiny sell-off here, that's a break of structure. Okay, go over my break of structure video or my market structure video. Okay, broke structure, tap the zone, boom, melted off. Okay, huge selling pressure here. Whoop, broke structure, tap the zone, melted off. Okay, these markets repeat over and over and over. And I'm about to go get some sleep. But look here. Whoop. This one would have been a loss. Oh well, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. But yeah, it flew straight through our zone. Right about here, since it wicked, I know I would have entered right there, and I would have lost that one. but that's why we manage our risk, okay? But for the most part, these markets repeat over and over and over and over again. Boom. Huge selling pressure created a zone, okay? We tapped that zone and we fell, okay? Even here, even right here, even right here too, right? Huge selling pressure, okay? We created a zone, tapped it, boom, fell again. So these markets do not move by accident. And signing out. That's it. Put in the time to study this shit, because it repeats itself. Once you know how to read a slot machine, boom, money's gonna print for you like a motherfucker. But you gotta set aside some time to learn how to read a motherfucking slot machine, bro. That is a skill. That is a real thing. That is day trading. Read a motherfucking slot machine. You can read when it's about to hit. So you best believe that's my profession. That's my profession. I can read a motherfucking slot machine. Yep. That's what I do. I can read a slot machine. So you can guarantee that I hit more than usual. More than somebody who gambles at a casino. Because I know how to read the motherfucking slot machine. Okay? I'm not just hitting buy or hitting that bet button and hoping that I win something. Okay? I can anticipate with an 80% win rate at the highest that I will win, because this shit repeats itself. So that's all I gotta say. Okay, right here is another one. Boom. I would have lost on that one, not gonna lie, because I would have entered right up in here at the break of the candle, and boom, it just stopped us out. But see, I shouldn't even be looking for sells anyways. So sorry, in an uptrend I'm looking for buys. So this would have been a tap right here. Boom. I'm not looking for sells. So actually I would have never entered that. So yeah, boom, we tapped a demand zone. Boom, flew off. Okay, that is the trend. We trade with the trend. Okay, and if it's going to continue, then it's going to continue to break highs, and the lows are going to continue to get higher. Okay, just like that. Boom, boom. So these low points must be getting higher, and these high points must be getting higher on an uptrend. So we would never take a sell up in here, right? We're trading with the trend. We're trading with the wave. Okay, over and over and over again. Look at, you have more demand zones here. Boom, it breaks structure, taps the zone. The original zone is this one. Taps this zone and takes off. And again, all you need is 50 points. You do $20 times 50 points. Man, you just made 1,000 just by clicking buttons. Okay, we usually aim for a 1-to-1, which would be here, or a 1-to-2. 1-to-2. You see that in the middle? It's 1.99. You get it. Okay, 1-to-2. 62 points. That would have been 1,200 at one contract for $20. 20 times 60, 1,200. Okay, 1,200 bucks, or 40. 40 times 60. Yeah. 24. So as you can see, this happens over and over and over again. Look at this. Break of structure here. Okay, that's the first thing we look for, is a break of structure. All these blue candles broke above, creating a demand zone right here. The last seller candle. Okay, let me just delete that. So it broke structure, tapped into the box, flew off. Okay, by this flying off and breaking this structure, it left another demand zone. Okay, where's our demand zone at? Right here, the last seller candle. So now you have a demand zone within a demand zone. Boom, touches that box. Okay, touches this box and flies off. Okay, then it leaves another demand zone, which is this one here. Okay, now we wait for it to tap, and it didn't tap until like a whole nother day, I believe. What, August 26th? Yeah, this was 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Wait. Yeah, crazy. So yeah, it didn't tap till here, and reacted off of it. Boom. See, beautiful. Actually, it didn't even tap. Didn't even tap, but I guarantee you on a smaller time frame it probably tapped, or a higher time frame, 15 minute probably. But yeah, nothing happens by accident. Okay, here's another one. Here you have another demand zone. Boop. Okay, break structure. Why is it breaking structure? You guys can look at my other video. Whoop, break structure, taps back into it and flies off. You see that? Boom. Boom. Okay, that would have been a win right there, because we would have entered at the first candle break right here. Bam. Okay, and boom. So, and then it stopped us out, but yeah, we always aim for the high anyways. So yeah, this would have been a W. We would have pulled out, and then it fucking came back. Okay, I'm gonna cut this video. It's already getting late. Peace. I hope you guys took something from this. Learning supply and demand zones. Okay, these markets do not happen on accident. Okay, it just continues over and over and over. Boom, here's another one. Whoop. You can do this all day. All these blue candles broke structure. Okay, broke structure. What is this, a little mountaintop? You see that? All these blue candles broke above that little mountaintop. Boom, tapped into this box here, this one. Boom, flew off. Created another demand zone. Whoop. Created another demand zone. Whoop. Tapped it here. Boom, created another demand zone. We didn't tap until way over here. So it's just, bro, it's repetitive. Alright, y'all. I'm out.